Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm excited to be here.
Made it back from the frozen tundra, even
Good.
though this was kind of the frozen tundra too.
Yeah. I was in I was in Goldsboro over the weekend. It was 85 degrees. People wearing shorts, flip-flops.
Well, we were in the city Saturday and did not wear jackets.
But it got cold when I got home on Sunday. It got cold Sunday night and started flurrying.
It
Uh,
flurried here.
it flurried in Charlotte and Lake Norman, and then here in Lake Lure, it come a pretty good snow. But it's warmed back up today. It was 57 here today.
Oh, that's a heat wave.
I know it felt good. Warm up a little bit because it was that cold was tough on Monday and Tuesday. It was cold yesterday.
I think it was as bad here as where we were on Monday
Mm-hmm.
and Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Might have even been a little bit. It was just very, very windy up there. Yesterday was a gale warning, and we didn't know if it would impact our flight,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we were
One of
good.
my former MSA, EDCI to MSA, Stacy Fuentes, she lives in Grassy Pond, which is if you leave Gardner Webb heading south toward um, Gaffney on 150.
Uh-huh.
As soon as, the state line's what, 5 miles or less, right after you cross the river. And then when you cross the river and then you go up the hill and get in South Carolina, that community there is Grassy Pond, the South Carolina side there. I guess they still call it Bowling Springs on the North Carolina side. She lives down there and she's on a trip to New York this week. And she's always posting and emailing and um, she was talking about how bad the weather was. They tried to take a ferry. I don't think I would try to take a ferry in a gale storm, windstorm.
No, not a bit.
You have to take the ferry to go over to Staten Island, I believe it is.
Yes.
Yeah, they attempted that. I
No,
didn't
I
think
wouldn't
she
have
was the
done that.
smartest
Not
student
this
I ever had.
weekend. I would not have done that. Sunday we took my mom out to the end of Long Island and it was really windy out there and I
Yeah,
wouldn't have been on a boat for anything in that water. It was,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't care if it is a ferry. Um,
I think we've only got two classes left after today.
yeah, I pulled the schedule up. Let's see.
That's kind of crazy. I feel like our students might not agree, but I feel like this week has flown by.
It has. It has flown by. It's time to get started. It's 7:03. Let's get started. So
Yeah.
tonight's case study night. So let's do stars of the week. Um, I'm texting with Dr. Putnam. She's trying to get a head count on something. So still in the lead is Courtney, who has completed her skip, followed closely by Raquel, and now Kayla has made the leaderboard as well. So we're doing well. Make sure that you get your OMA finished up. That's a requirement, and we want to try to get the skip done so that you can get the skip and the cap done this spring so that you'll only have the SIOP in the summer. Now, remember, the summer is very, very short. Um, while it lasts 8 weeks, um, you got to have your work in starting in 6 weeks into the summer. And you know how busy the close of school is. And you got to have your competency folio too. That's why Dr. Maraglia is pushing you on that. You got to do your competency folio. You've got to get all your evidences in. And you've only got 6 weeks to do that in the summer. So if you got more than the SOP, if you still like your cap and SOP, it's very likely that you're going to get to be back with us in the fall in 699. And let me make sure that everybody understands. If you have to do 699, which is your internship extended through the fall in order to complete your portfolio, they charge you 3 credit hours, about $2,000, just to do the internship class to finish your portfolio for tasking. And remember, you can't graduate and you can't get your license until you finish that portfolio. That portfolio is uploaded to the state. Now, you know the people behind you, y'all got grandfathered in. They're having to take that series of exams that like Ed TPA, except it's admin TPA, and it costs over $500. So
Hmm.
if you play around too long, you won't get grandfathered in. They'll make you take that exam. So let's all try to be done this summer, so that we can just submit your task stream portfolio and they grant you your license. If we wait too long, they're going to make you take that exam. And it's a series of exams, by the way. It's not just one, it's three. And so would not be fun to have to go back and review 601 and 2 to take the first exam, 3, and then 4 and 5. They've got it split up by course. They have 3 different exams. You take an exam in 601, 3, and 5. We do not want to have to go back and redo that. And we don't want you to have to pay $2,000 to be in 699 to get to take just to finish your portfolio. So let's get after it on finish up in these 2 evidences. All right, I'll turn it over to Dr. Maraglia for her stars of the week.
Well, I hate to sound like a broken record, but my star this week is also Courtney because she is in really, really good shape with her competency folio.
Great.
Just, I believe she's got to give me her signed internship log, and she's sitting in a really good position. Please, everybody, don't forget, you got to get these artifacts submitted. Make sure you request comments, and then I'll get just the task stream generates an email to me letting me know that you've uploaded, and I'll go in and look at your artifacts and give you feedback.
All right. And so we made a command decision last week that we are going to do class next week, but we're not going to do class the Wednesday here. We're going to move it to the makeup week on the 15th. So remember that we won't have class the Wednesday of Thanksgiving. We will have it the following week. We'll move this one on harassment. We'll move it to week 15. So we've got 2 more, but we got one next week. Then we'll have a week off for Thanksgiving, and then we'll do our final class. So please remember our schedule, what we're going to do. Now, looking at discussion boards 13 and 14, interview a school administrator and list the 5 most important steps in the school-based budgeting process. Students ask me all the time, is there a right? No, there's not a right 5. But what I'm most interested in, does your administrator have a list of what's important? Um, that's what's important. And then your local budget, does it contain federal, state, local, and school funds? There's 4 types, and a full budget has all 4 of those in it, and it spells out your federal programs, EC 504, career and technical education, Title I, gifted, English as second language. All 6 of those, do you have the budget for that? Your state, which pays for your teachers, your local, which is your capital budget, which pays for your facilities, and then your school funds, which you buy supplies with at schools. That's what we're looking for. We're not interested so much in what the dollar amounts are, is that you understand that you have to manage all 4 of those budgets when you're a school principal. You have to manage all 4. And we've talked before, you don't spend federal money but one time. And then they give somebody else the opportunity to be principal. They'll make you revert, and they'll do a penalty. State money, they generally revert. They sometimes do a penalty, but federal money, if you misspend it, they almost require that you be removed. The person that did that, because they get really picky about how you spend the federal money. All right, so tonight we're doing case study 4, our last case study, um, about an inclusion classroom. And we talked last week a little bit about some of the issues that we could see right off the bat, that you put all the EC kids in one room. Well, remember when we talk about the master schedule, there are 5 parts of the rationale. Your federal programs come first, and there are rules and laws about that. Then your state law, then your local policy, then your performance scores, EVOS or SLOs in South Carolina, and then teacher input. So the first thing that we would look at is are we following federal law in an inclusion program to put where we're pushing the teachers in rather than pulling the kids out? Is it legal to put all the EC kids in the same room? We've got an issue with what's going on instructionally where we're using upper kids to teach the lower kids. We've got an issue that the principal doesn't know what's going on. And so that's the setup for tonight. So whose turn is it? So we've had 4. So whose turn is it to go first? So 1, 2 went last, then first. So the group that went 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1.
I think it's myself, Diamond, and Courtney. I
Yep,
think.
that'd be y'all. Y'all would be group 2. Goes 1, 2, 1, 2. I'll turn my camera off. It might help you to share your screen. No, I'm not.
Okay. Can y'all see my screen?
We can.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So inclusive education, success for all, or success for some. All right. So just a case overview, setting wise, a small semi-rural town in central North Carolina. It's a local public preschool and elementary school, approximately 300 students, 28 teachers, 2 administrators, and 3 specialists. And then it kind of gives the disadvantaged families, all of that. The main characters in this specific case study would be Eugenia, maybe is how you pronounce her name, 44-year-old principal, former teacher, strong believer in inclusive education. And then we have Sylvia, 50-year-old, experienced 3rd grade teacher, passionate about inclusion, uses peer collaboration. Humberto, president of the Parents Association, local farmer, and expresses parents' concerns. Ishmael Ortiz, technical coordinator. He's respected academic mediator between the teachers. And then we have some of the other teachers that are listed below, some of which are inclusion focused, and then some that are achievement focused. All right, so the problem here, the parents' concern, would basically be that their children are not progressing as well as others. They feel that Sylvia focuses too much on special needs students, and then regular students are being asked to assist special needs peers with parents, and they see that as holding those particular students back. All right, so the principal's role in this would be facilitative leadership. His or her role should be to balance inclusion and academic rigor, promote collaboration among teachers and specialists, and then use professional learning communities to strengthen inclusive practices. Teacher's perspective. So Sylvia's perspective, she believes that inclusive education benefits all children. She uses peer collaboration, so kind of what the parents see as a concern. She thinks that it helps. Kids helping kids helps build empathy, respect, and reinforces their learning. She thinks that it strengthens their understanding in terms of the advanced students, and she sees it as a moral and social education, not just academically. So she's kind of frustrated by what the parents are thinking. Sergio, another teacher, he has the traditional performance-based approach. He prioritizes curricular coverage and test results. He believes that inclusion shouldn't compromise academic standards, thinks that the specialist should handle special needs students outside of the classroom, and kind of defines success as measurable academic outcomes and comparative performance. Then there is Rodrigo and Angelica, and they are the inclusive or they believe that all students should progress within their set abilities. They oppose the pressure from parents focused on test scores. They value differentiated teaching and respect diversity. They criticize external evaluations for fostering segregation and inequity. And then they define success as personal growth. All right. All right. So our reflection for 1 and 2 in terms of the leadership approach, we believe that collaborative meetings with structured agendas and shared goals, transformational leadership to model inclusion and empathy, and then create an inclusion task force that reviews student performance data. Reflection 3, balancing perspectives, talks about both viewpoints holding merit. We can see, both, where each set of teachers is coming from, that we can combine inclusion with rigor, through differentiated instruction, and then use small groups, peer mentoring, and scaffolded supports. Reflection 4, family collaboration. So conducting parent workshops on inclusion benefits, hosting family nights, celebrating diversity and student growth, and then create an advisory group for parents of both general and our EC students. Reflection 5, coordinator's role. Ishmael facilitates professional learning community. In Harmony, he uses data-driven PLCs and peer observations, and builds shared instructional templates to ensure alignment. All right, teacher outreach. Sylvia can engage families through newsletters and showcases, can implement student-led conferences and growth portfolios, and then highlight social and academic gains from inclusive practices. All right, here's our legal and ethical context. All right, so both policies, both of the top policies are to ensure free and appropriate public education. And then principals must guarantee the least restrictive environment. And so in that case, kind of what you were talking about at the opening would be, in most instances, all students who, have an IEP or are considered EC should not be grouped in the same classroom. I know that it's difficult in terms of scheduling, which is why you see a lot of them kind of dispersed throughout the same class or same couple of classes. It just works better scheduling wise. But once you do that, then it's no longer as inclusive. It's just a class that is just for EC students. So collaboration among educators and families upholds equity and compliance. All right. I don't know if my teammates want me to keep going or if they want to chime in. I did not look at our messages.
Okay. Hold on, let me pull
No,
up.
you're fine. Or do you want me to keep going?
No, you're fine.
Okay. I'm going to escape this really quick so I can mute because my daughter.
Okay. So here we go. So this is just kind of piggybacking. You gonna leave your screen up? Yeah, it looks like it. Okay. All right, so this is just kind of piggybacking off of the actual questions in for reflection. So I'll just read those. So how might the principal approach it? So this is the principal's approach. So approach the meetings through collaborative and active listening. Use facilitative leadership to build consensus rather than taking sides. Okay, because all the teachers had different viewpoints. Blend inclusion goals with academic rigor, so both can exist. That way, you're appeasing the parents as well. create structured PLC discussions to address the challenges and strategies that will come with this layout or this outcome, and then document outcomes and follow up to sustain inclusive progress. Um, Issue is the parents just didn't feel like the kids in that class were getting the same amount of attention. So this is to again go back legally and also what the teacher is supposed to be doing. Can you go to the next? Because you're sharing. So the next question, what is the path that she should take, Eugenia should take? Gather teacher, parent, and specialist input to put an action plan in place. Um, Use data to assess both general and EC student performance. Again, be data driven, based off of what what you are doing in the classroom. Provide targeted professional development on differentiation and co-teaching, and build an inclusion task force to align the school mission with what's actually going on in the classroom. The third question was, is one viewpoint correct or the other? Like, is one more correct than the other, and why? We believe that both held value. Sylvia emphasized that peer collaboration and social emotional growth, and that's a big thing recently with this social emotional learning and whatnot, SEL. So Sergio emphasized measurable outcomes and curriculum mastery, which that is what most teachers, again, with are going to be judged on, is their scores. Okay, so both held value, but we just believe that they should use a more balanced approach when implementing it into the classroom. So inclusion and accountability must operate together in order for a student to be successful. The fourth, excuse me, what kind of collaboration from the children's families might the principal and the teachers propose in order to improve the education? Uh-oh. So maybe host parent workshops explaining what inclusion is and its benefits. Establish family engagement nights that celebrate diversity. This is all things that could be included within the school year, that they could do to better inform the parents. Communicate regularly about student growth instead of making comparisons. Again, look at the individual child and where they are going. And where they're growing. Build community support and around shared goals for student achievement. The fifth question was, as an expert in the area of learning and evaluation, what might Ismail, the coordinator, do? And that's maybe facilitate PLCs, use data from walkthroughs, assessments, etc. Model it. Again, model collaborative reflection and peer observation. Create harmony by highlighting shared successes and goals, and then provide ongoing PDs in differentiation, co-teaching, and assessment, being the support for the teachers who need the help in this area with EC and inclusion, and balancing the two. And then what actions might Sylvia take with the families of the children in order to, in question, in order to learn and share achievements and experiences they have observed? Just communicate. Okay, communication is key. Communicate frequently with them. Highlight peer learning and the benefits of collaborating. Host open classrooms and show and student showcases to build transparency. Encourage student-led conferences and reflective journals, and then and these are just some examples. And foster trust and share pride in inclusive achievements. So don't, not necessarily treat it as something different, but again, let the parents feel involved. Inclusion benefits all learners academically and socially. Principals must balance accountability and equity. It goes back to equity. Are the kids receiving, you know, an equal education. All right. And are we giving them and providing them with the tools that they need to succeed, whether they are qualified for special education or whether they're in gen ed classes? Collaboration among teachers, coordinators, and families drive success. Again, communication all goes back to communication. And leadership and inclusion requires empathy, data use, and a shared vision. And we have a quote, a little question at the bottom. Can inclusion truly mean success for all, or will systemic pressures make it success only for some? So, and that goes back to the parents' questions. Well, who is it helping if you are doing this? So, we do need to address that the teacher should not be making the kids, help those others, but instead working collaboratively in the classroom setting. And that's what I got.
All right, you can stop your share now. Excellent. Dr. Maraglia, I'll go to you first while I pull something up.
Okay. I think I had let me just look at one thing. I had your Zoom, your presentation pulled up. There was something I wanted to reference again, but I think I must have closed it up. The thing about this case study, and there's a lot of extra information going on. The location, the experience of the principal and the teachers, and then you've got your technical support guy and his experience and all of that. But what is this case really about? What is really going on here when you just boil it down to brass tacks? What's going on? What is our concern?
Equity of education.
But even beyond that, what is the real issue here? What is this case study about?
Would it be the parents' complaint about the teacher using other students to help with the inclusive students? Maybe.
Well, neither one of you are necessarily on the wrong track. These are all valid concerns, but what really is the base
Okay, are we
problem here?
Is it
are
focusing
we going?
too?
Hold on. I sounded like I had two people talking at the same time.
Yes.
The
I
principal
was saying just
know what's
keeping them
going on in
separate.
the classroom?
Okay, I still couldn't hear you. You were jumbled up.
The principal doesn't know what's going on in the classroom?
That is absolutely one of the base issues.
I'm sorry, y'all.
You're fine.
You're
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
You're fine, Tamika. You're
That's
fine.
exactly right.
You are
you're good.
exactly right. All right, let's take it one more step, Tamika, because we still are trying to get down to even something a little bit more foundational. What would you call that in terms of negligence that she doesn't know what's going on in her building?
Oh, that feasance, those words.
Yes. Which feasance
I
did
was
you say?
Is it Mal?
No,
Okay, hold on. Where are my notes?
Remember, mal is when you are intentionally, knowingly breaking the law.
Okay, so then the other one. Let me find my notes.
Is it misfeasance?
Very good.
Okay.
Very good. Lack of knowledge.
Mm.
And I would also say not only does she not know what's going on in her building, but what else does she not really know much about, does it seem?
The students.
The students. What else? Anything else? Especially, I know I never can remember, but I know I got an EC teacher in here. What else does she not understand? What does she not have a really strong knowledge about?
Are you meaning like how inclusion works or what?
Yes,
what-
exactly.
inclusion
Mia.
versus pull out, push in
Yes.
versus pull out.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
This case is about the principal doesn't know, and the issue here is push in versus pull out. This district has said we're going to do inclusion, but she's got teachers who said we're not going to do that. We want them all put over here in her room. Look at my screen share. When you schedule a school, Federal programs. Now, Courtney said it's hard to schedule EC, not if you start with them first and put them in all the rooms like you're supposed to. So what happened in this case is she went with teacher input. This is that negligence part. She went with teacher input over federal law.
So what's she
Teachers-
doing? If she does that, what is she doing?
Breaking the law? Is that what you mean?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So the
This-
bottom line here is she's breaking the law. All this other stuff is just extra. She's breaking the law.
The first thing we started with this semester was the master schedule, the legal rationale that you have to, as a school administrator, follow. You have to schedule your EC and federal programs first and make sure that you're in alignment with the adopted practice of your district. This district has adopted inclusion, but because she has teachers that don't want to, she has scheduled her building illegally to accommodate teacher input rather than federal law. That's the first problem. And she doesn't know what's going on in the rooms, is the second problem. But the biggest problem is she's breaking the law by how she's scheduled. Inclusion versus what we call mainstreaming or pulling out. Both of them can be legal, but when you pick one, you can't let some of your people do some and not all. The district said we're doing inclusion. That means that she's breaking the law if she schedules like she scheduled, where she put all the EC in one room. That's not inclusion. So that's the first and primary problem is she doesn't know what's going on in her building, but she scheduled it wrong to start with and then didn't go look and see. She probably let the teachers do the schedule. You cannot do that. That is your responsibility. Whoever makes the master schedule runs the school. That's the way it works. You better understand that. Whoever makes the master schedule is running things. And if you let teachers run it, they'll run it for their convenience, as in this case, because you had folks in that same grade level. I don't want to teach them, so don't put them in my room. That's against the law. You cannot do that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Whose AP or principal, whose position or whose responsibility is it to create that master schedule
The
though?
principal.
The principal.
It's interesting though, because as an AP, I can say that
That's what I was gonna
hasn't
say.
been the case.
That's what I was getting at, because I was
Yeah.
like, I helped with the master schedule at Smith this year, and it was I never once met with
But the principal has to sign at the end of
Right.
it.
And who's ultimately responsible
If anything,
For
yeah, no, you're right.
everything.
Yes.
for
Yes.
everything?
Okay.
When you
Okay.
put it into what is now Infinite Campus or used to be Power School, when you put that in,
Mhm.
there is a monthly report that the state pulls called the School Activity Report, SAR, that the principal has to sign that this is the way the school is scheduled. It's pulled monthly, just like your attendance. The school activity report is pulled out of Infinite Campus every month, and the state checks to make sure that all students are where they're supposed to be. That you can't have 40 in one room and 10 in another, and then write down on your master schedule that you got 25 in both. You can't do that. And you can't put down that you put all your, that they would, somebody's fudging the numbers here because it would be easy on an audit to see that all the EC kids are in the same room. So probably what the master schedule says is these kids are here and they're here and here. But in reality, this is where they are. Maybe the teachers did that on their own. But again, the principal don't know because you don't go and look.
It's
But
all
the
about
law is
how
being
you are.
broken here.
It's all about how you are spending your time. What are you paying attention to? Courtney, I'm looking to see what you
She's
just,
exactly right. You've heard me say 1,000 times, you can delegate the activity, but not the responsibility.
mm-hmm.
It's just like when we talked about doing an assessment inventory. You can let the janitor do it, but you're going to be responsible. If he does it wrong and doesn't file his reports and lets law violations occur, When it comes time for the punishment to be meted out, it won't be him, it'll be you. The school, for whatever reason, is scheduled illegally. You can't put all in an inclusion model. You can't put all the EC kids in one room. This argument. Well, I'm all about. I don't want EC kids in my room because I'm all about accountability and testing. That's not a thing, folks. We have accountability for everybody, but you can't use that as an excuse as a teacher to say you can't put EC kids in my room. Yes, we can, and we will.
And I have a question when it comes for the group, when it comes to when we're thinking about our students and we're thinking about EC and Gen Ed and all of that. What are students first?
Well,
Come on, Diamond. I just saw you
scholars?
unmute. What are they first?
Scholars. I mean, hold on. I'm trying to go where.
I
where
know
you
you
going.
are.
I was
I
gonna
know
say I
you
was trying to
are.
understand what you were asking.
Yeah, what you're at. Yeah.
Let's think about if we're talking about students being EC or gifted or 504s or anything like that. But what are they first?
Just
Before
students.
That,
They're just
exactly,
yeah,
children.
they're
they
students.
are
Yeah, that's why I said
Gen
scholars.
Ed students.
Yeah.
They are Gen Ed students. And this is one of the most difficult issues sometimes when you are dealing with your staff, because if they're EC, a lot of times you're going to have Gen Ed teachers that will, okay, they're EC's going to deal with them. I don't have to deal with it. No, 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 no. First, they are Gen Ed. They are everyone's responsibility. When you start adding on, whether they're EC, again, if they're gifted, yes, there may be support there in place for them. But the ultimate responsibility, aside when you're talking about classroom instruction, is on that Gen Ed teacher. And Gen Ed teachers are responsible for instruction. They are content experts, theoretically. EC teachers come in with the strategies and the support mechanisms. They're not always necessarily content experts because they're more generalists, but they are there to provide that support. And then it becomes a collaboration and dual responsibility, but it ultimately falls on that Gen Ed teacher. Why do you think, I'm not sure if you probably do something like this in South Carolina, but in North Carolina, why do we do the teacher, why does the principal have to go in and you have to do your percentage of instruction before we take end of grade tests at the end of the year? Why do you have to do that? And who gets the majority, the majority percentage of
Oh,
instruction?
you're talking about when we do our rosters, roster
Yes,
verification.
roster verification.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was
Why
like,
do we
oh,
have
where
to
we
do
at?
that? Why do we have to do that?
Oh, because that has to do with those EC students that get pullouts and whatnot. Those teachers have to be accounted for whatever percentage like there is on
Right.
their IEPs.
And unless it's a self-contained child, who
Right.
gets the higher
The
instructional
Gen Ed.
percentage? Exactly, because these kids are Gen Ed before they're
Okay.
anything
Yeah.
else. So, it kind of goes into, I don't think our principal here understands the totality of her job and all the aspects that are involved in her job. And she doesn't appear to be trying to learn either. So there's definitely negligence there as well.
When somebody comes and complains about what's going on in a room at your school and you don't know, that's damning to start with. But to make it worse is you don't go and look, you send somebody else to go and look. The metaphor here is, and it's kind of ugly, but the metaphor here is I grew up out in the country. When you step in a pile of manure, don't track it in the house too. Don't compound one problem with another. You didn't know what was going on in the room, and then you made it worse by not going and looking. Yes, this principal is negligent. I would suspect that the master's, I know the master schedule is illegal. She's breaking federal law with the master schedule. She's not not holding a teacher cannot say you can't put an EC kid in my room. That's that's a discriminatory act right there in itself. They're all gen ed to start with. So we got a lot of issues here. And since somebody else down there, I love the issues that you brought up and how you're going to handle these things. But we have to start with the two biggest problems. The principal is not fulfilling their responsibilities, aren't, hasn't scheduled the school properly, and then it's a disaster after that. And Kayla is right. It's really hard to schedule EC once you've already scheduled it, but by teacher input, then trying to go back and fix it, it's just a mess. The way that you avoid that is you don't start with teacher input, you end with it. You start with federal law. What's the law say I have to do with these kids? And the law says you have to disperse these kids equally across the rooms. You can't just put them all in one room. That's the first problem. Now, let's talk about instructional practices. I've never been accused of being a great instructional wizard, but I can tell you this. I know the third grade curriculum and I know the standards for teaching enough to know that nowhere in third grade does it says that we have the smart ones teach the not smart ones. It does not say that anywhere. That is not a best practice. Actually, that's a worse practice at third grade level. You understand? We might could get away with a little bit of that at the secondary level in high school, but definitely not in third grade. Definitely not. Again, that's malpractice, and that's intentionally malpracticing on kids. You would not get away in a court of law. They would crucify you. I would hate to see somebody that would go into court and make the argument that it was good practice to have a 7-year-old teaching another 7-year-old. That would not go well for you. So that's a bad practice. I mean, I appreciate that this teacher welcomes those kids in her room, but what she's doing after that is malpractice. We can't be having 7-year-olds teach other 7-year-olds. I
And
mean,
I'm just going to
that's
throw
not a
this,
good practice.
I'm just going to throw this out here. I've mentioned before that um, I consider myself to be a Montessorian. I believe in the Montessori philosophy. And within the Montessori philosophy, we have something called the third period lesson. And when you go, the first period is the child receives the lesson from the teacher. Then the second period lesson, the child practices whatever skill or concept that is. And then the third period is when that child gives the lesson typically back to the teacher. It could be another student, but it's not from the standpoint of you are starting that instructional lesson the child to child. It's still going to be the initial instruction is coming from the teacher. So even though we believe in students being able to give a lesson, because we do believe that if you can teach the lesson, you have really taken in that information and you understand it, but it's never taken the responsibility of instruction and putting it on the child. It is still ultimately the teacher is always initiating that lesson. And so, again, we have that where students are giving lessons, but they're not introducing information to another child. It's still coming from the adult in the room, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is not appropriate for children to be doing that.
30 something years ago, I had, when we first started accountability in 1990, well, actually 89, I was an elementary principal. One of the hardest things that I had to get teachers to understand was to quit sending home homework for parents to teach kids. We don't even want parents to teach kids.
Mm-mm.
Because if they teach them wrong, you'll never convince them otherwise. That homework is for reinforcement, not for new information. Only teachers should be bringing forth new information. That's standard in our business, even with parents and homework. We only send homework home for reinforcement. We don't introduce any new learning or new concepts. Only the teacher does that. Teacher input, then guided practice. That's the way we do lessons. That's an established pattern, been around for about 40 years of how to do a standard lesson plan. It's been around about 40 years, since about 1985. And so this is not a best practice in any sense of a best practice. More things from this one that catch my eye. Ishmael. You're what would we, he's the tech facilitator. He's not a coach. He's not a curriculum facilitator. The problem that I have sending him, you shouldn't be sending anybody. You should go look at yourself. But the problem that I have with sending him is I'm not sure how well he understands the inclusion model. He's a tech guy. He's not an EC expert. Um,
I was a little confused when I read it, and I was like, tech coordinator.
yeah,
That mean now I know what tech is.
That's extra. That's some of that extra stuff I was mentioning.
yeah, yeah. But that she sent somebody, but who did she send? She sent him because people liked him. He's the guy that delivers the bad news, but everybody loves him anyway, so that they don't shoot the messenger. So she could have picked anybody randomly, but she picked a guy that everybody liked, simply not because of his knowledge, but because everybody liked him. Now, that sounds crazy, but that happens in our business a lot more than I would like to admit. You need to send somebody who could assist with what's going wrong rather than just the person that everybody likes. Oh, he's just a young fella, everybody likes him, it's not him. You don't need to send somebody A, but B, if you do send help, you need to send help. Somebody that can help them do the right thing, not just somebody that everybody likes so the teacher won't be as mad. But that happens all the time. And so, summer before last at the dissertation conference, they always have me get up and do something. And one one of the other professors whispered to one there on stage and said, "He's the only one of us that get away with saying that." Well, why do you think they had me say that? We have some people that can say things and others, but you can't just send the person that everybody likes or respects or reveres or whatever. You need to send the person who can offer assistance. That's one of the biggest problems we have in our business is we need to send somebody, if we're going to send somebody or we're going to get assistance, that person needs to be assistance. They need to have the skill or ability to, you're doing this, we need to work on that. Here's what we can do kind of thing. Not just we like him, so we use him to deliver bad news. That's pretty epidemic in our business. You can't fall in that trap. You need to be the one that has those critical conversations if you're the school leader.
My principal he doesn't go to PLC's grade level meetings for pre-K, first grade, nor third grade. He only deals with kindergarten, fourth, and fifth grade.
Why is that?
He doesn't want to deal with pre-K. He feels like because the AP taught third grade, she can just handle third grade, and she's got to have another grade so she gets first grade.
But that's not a best practice.
I don't think so.
If there are critical conversations that need to be had, you need to be the one delivering those critical conversations. That's what this is about. It's about those critical conversations that you have to have as a leader. You can't delegate those to somebody else, especially not somebody who doesn't have the skill to be able to help that person in that situation.
I agree. My thing is you're the principal for the whole school, not
Right.
just second and fourth and fifth grade.
Yeah. When there's a critical conversation to be had, that's your job. This is a critical conversation. Parents have come and complained. You're breaking federal law. a number of ways. You're doing a lot of bad practices here. You're letting teachers schedule your school. You've got to go have that critical conversation. And you've got to say to all those third grade teachers, inclusion's not a choice here, folks. It's the law. You don't get to pick whether you have EC kids in your room or not. This is about the principal not, as Dr. Miragler said, this is the principal not doing her job. She is being negligent because she doesn't like having to have those critical conversations. So she hides in her office. One of the things I ask, especially my docs all the time, my doctoral students, what's your hide? Not your skin, but where do you hide to avoid the unpleasant, the critical conversations that you don't want to have? A lot of them are principals and in the central office. What is your hide? I used to hide at the cafeteria, the ball field, gym. You know, I see a lot of folks that hide in classrooms to avoid irate parents or having to deal with teachers. You've got to assess yourself and understand that they hired you to do the critical conversations, not to send somebody else. And if you're going to be the leader in your building, if you're going to and be held accountable for the outcomes, you better be the one having the critical conversations. We're not sending Ishmael. I'm not sending Ishmael or anybody else. This is, this you just got to man up on this one. This is just you. Woman up, man up. You got to go do this. This is you. Critical conversations are what we hired you for. Ron Thompson used to call them come to Jesus meetings. That's what you're hired for. To come to Jesus meetings. Where we have to have a change. When you get to be principal, within the first day of you being in the building, you'll get a call from somebody in the central office. Now, I can't tell you what position they will hold, and sometimes it doesn't even make sense. And they'll say, we need to get together and have lunch. And you'll say, well, I'm really busy right now. And they'll say, that wasn't a question. And they'll show up within another day, usually on the second day in your new principalship. That person will show up. And what they will have with them is what I refer to as the book. It may not be in a book, but it will be the things that are going wrong in that building legally that you have to fix right now. That's part of the reason why you're there. Now, it doesn't matter that it might have been going on for the last 10 years. It has to stop now. Every place I've ever been, it works that way. Big district, little district, doesn't matter. New principal, within a day, they have the book arrives. I tickled, one of my stops, it was the district's athletic director, of all people, came by, and one of the things she said to me is you've got an English teacher teaching photography. Photography was defunded by the federal government 6 years ago, and you're using an English position to teach that photography, which means all of your English classes are overloaded. That has to stop today. Now, when they come and do that with you, who do you think has to go out and fix those things? That would be you. You have to have those critical conversations. But that's what they hired you for, to follow law and policy. This is a legal issue. We're not following the law on how we schedule this school and how we're running our EC program and supervising teachers. We're not following the law. This is a critical conversation where that principal's got to go and handle this. It's her legal responsibility to do that. Your number one job as principal is to follow law and policy. That's what they hired you for. That's what they hired you for. We've talked about that before. This course is about not losing your house because you chose to or didn't follow the law. And when you get sued, you will lose. I would not send somebody else. You can delegate the activity, but not the responsibility. It's up to you to do these critical conversations. All right, it's time for team one.
Raquel, can you share? Can you go to slide 6? We pretty much said a lot of the same things
Right.
that the two said. Um, we did say that, Eugenia and her team could establish a parent council. So when we talked about collaboration for
Mm-hmm.
families and how the principal and teachers could um, propose to order to improve the inclusive education program, we um, thought that she could establish a parent council that focuses on inclusive education, that both the families of special needs and non-special needs students could work together to promote empathy, understanding, and collective support for inclusion. Parents could get involved through workshops and differentiated learning and inclusion. There could be celebration events that highlight diverse abilities and student successes. These partnerships align with legal and ethical expectations for parental involvement and transparency in the educational program, reducing the likelihood of conflict or complaints.
I love that, Tamika. One of the things early on in my career, when parents came to complain something about EC, it was always EC parents. Now, my understanding is from all of my docs and all the folks that I work with now is that you get more complaints like this one from Reg Ed complaining about the EC kids and about their children not getting what they're supposed to. So you're exactly right. You need parent workshops, not just for those EC parent workshops or EC parent nights, but for all of them so that everybody understands what the law is and how we have to integrate in an inclusion classroom. We need parent workshops for both EC and non-EC for Reg Ed parents as well, so that everybody understands what we have to do now. That's exactly
Mhm.
right. Again, 40 years ago, you only got complaints from EC parents. Now you get more complaints from Reg Ed about EC than you do from EC. So you're exactly right. You're going to have to do a series of parent workshops, not just for the EC parents, but for the Reg Eds as well. Excellent.
So when we were when we talked about this, we also did not really understand why Ishmael was a part of this. Like I said,
Yeah, he shouldn't be.
I know what tech is, but I was like, well, maybe this is a different title for her school as it relates to instruction. So we said that he could create a space that would allow the regular ed and the specialist to work together. The regular ed teacher's focus would be differentiated instruction, inclusion, and classroom instruction, but the specialist would focus on intervention or small groups with targeted instruction, specialized strategies, and additional support. He could also incorporate just what Team Two said, co-teaching, push-in support, and pull-out support.
All right, so let's think about budgets and positions and who pays for what in school districts. Now, we said this is a small rural district in the Piedmont of North Carolina. All right. Looking at your budget, at your local budget. We've already talked about Leandro and it's taking all the local budget to pay just for the buildings and grounds, the capital, and they don't have extra money to put into the education of children, to educating them. That's what the whole lawsuit was about. So if you're in a rural, low wealth district in the Piedmont, do you have curriculum facilitators? Do you have coaches? Who would pay for them? The local would have to pay for them. Do they have money to do that?
No.
No. But most of them have a what? They have a technology person that is funded through, it's still local, but it's funded through that capital because technology is capital. There's a little caveat there. What is capital? It's buildings and grounds and technology. So a lot of those districts will even though they don't have instructional coaches, they don't have instructional facilitators because those are locally paid. They may have technology facilitators because that's considered technology and capital, and they could pay for that through their capital budget. But that person would not be the person who you would send to the room to work on instruction. You're exactly right. Again, you got to remember capital is buildings, grounds, upkeep, and technology. So we may have some of that, but when we talk about we don't have any extra local money to spend on educating a child, what we're talking about, no extra teachers, no reduced class size, no facilitators, no coaches. That's what we're talking about. Those are the things that more wealthy districts can pay for, that small rural districts cannot pay for. But you can't just say, well, because I've got this tech guy over here, I can use him. No, he doesn't have any expertise in teaching. He's a tech guy. He's not paid as a teacher. He's not paid to work with teachers. That's not his role. She sent him because everybody liked him, not because he knew anything, because he was handy, because she didn't want to go.
Some principals don't like uncomfortable conversations.
Exactly. They don't like critical conversations.
So some of the actions that we said that Sylvia could take with the families and children are to hold parent-teacher conferences to share the student data, discuss behaviors, discuss class routines, and how parents can assist their children at home. This will allow Sylvia to foster strong relationships with parents and families, build open communication, promote positive behavior, and acknowledge student achievements. Students should or will or could also feel seen, understood, and supported by her meeting with their families and giving them some positives. And because a lot of times we know teachers only talk about the negatives. They rarely talk about the positive and the good things that are going on in the classroom. So these are some of the things that we said that she could do. So in our conclusion, we felt that the principal's best course of action is to foster collaboration, um, clarify expectations, and ensure equitable access for all students. The law and sound educational practice both support an inclusive model that combines rigorous academics and social and social emotional growth. Through effective leadership, data-driven collaboration, and strong family engagement, the school can move from tension toward a unified commitment to success for all. Success for the teachers, the school, and of course the students, which is the main priority.
What would you do? Thank you. That was great. Y'all have done an excellent job tonight.
Mm.
What would you do with a teacher that said, I don't want them EC kids in my room. I'm all about my test scores.
You don't want to be here. This is
Removed.
not where you want to be.
It makes me think of our very first case study. Like these people are the same as that. I don't
Yeah.
want that in my building.
Yeah. It's exactly right. It's the same as will cheating strike Bobby out? That woman just wanted him out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to deal with him. See, for her, it was about her. It wasn't about students and about learning or any of that. It was about what makes my day the easiest. Oh, no. And then to hide behind, well, I'm all about academic standards. No, you're not. You just don't want to have to deal with anything that causes you to have to work. That's why teacher input comes last in the scheduling. You can solve a lot of this problem with the master schedule. But again, they won't like it. That's not part of the process. I didn't see where anywhere on that slide it said teachers must like this. One of the things you need to do, maybe at the first faculty meeting at your first principalship, is just go ahead and say, I apologize now. And they'll say, what in the world for? Because anytime there's a decision that comes along that's going to be whether I have to choose between kids and you, I'm going to choose the kids. What's best for them. You have to understand that's what I'm hired to do. My job is not, I'll buy you some swag and I'll get you churches or get you, Price's Chicken Coop on Friday. I love you, but I got to look out for the kids. That's what I do. Dr. Maraglia told you the story I'll tell it on her again. First time she applied for the principal fellow, she told him she wanted to be a champion for teachers. Second time, she wised up and said, I want to be a champion for students. And she got right in like Flynn that time. I'll tell that story. She don't think I remember that. I'm old, but I still got a good memory. That's a long time ago. That was a long, long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I still remember that.
That's part of changing your lens.
That's exactly right. You're here for the kids, not for your colleagues, not for the teachers to make their life easy. That's why when we talk about teacher input, that's on what shouldn't be in the room together. That's not about what kids I should have. That's just like the photography teacher. I've been teaching photography here for 30 years. He's running the private business. Well, but you know, we can't have 40 in a 10th grade English class because you want to teach photography. That's not how it works. That's not how it goes. Um, you know, I have walked into some bad situations in my career. And generally, it's because the people that we paid to handle their business didn't handle their business 90% of the time. If people that were paid had just handled their business, we wouldn't have been in that mess. This started out with a principal who didn't handle her business. She let teachers scream and yell, and she didn't schedule the school legally. She didn't go and check and see. When confronted, she didn't go check and see. Even then, she sent the nice guy. That really, is not in the hierarchy. He's not really a teacher, and he's not an administrator. He's just there. He's the tech guy. We'll send him. No hard feelings that way, but nothing gets done either. This is a bad principle. This is what you don't want to be. This is what you don't want to be. And Tamika's exactly right. You can't just be principal for the teachers that you like and get along with.
Mm-hmm.
We've had teachers that did not want my principal would ask them to go to other grades and they'd say no. Well, in my mind, if the principal not necessarily ask
Why
or
are you asking?
something, that's what you do. And I've had conversations with other colleagues and they'd say, I wouldn't work for you. Well, okay, you wouldn't because it's not about you. It's not,
Exactly. It's not about you. It's about
and
them.
and then they would say, well, she's going to retire if he moves her out of kindergarten and she's been there 20 years. Well, that's his fault because she thinks she owns that grade.
No.
Mm-hmm.
She should have been
Your
moved. She's been there
your
too
name's on the door, not on the deed.
It's in secondary as well. That's how I end up teaching
Yeah.
5, 6 different preps because, well, such and such is going to leave if they don't get all world or all civics or all whatever. And they appease them. And then there's 2 or 3 like me. They're like, okay, just give me whatever.
Well,
So I see it all the time.
well, y'all are lucky. Y'all don't have to see me in person on the weekends like my docs do. And so on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, I do church. And my favorite is Bishop T.D. Jakes. And he does a sermon on colleagues, comrades, and confidants about how to build a team. And he talks all the time about, your colleagues. You love them when they come, but you got to love them when they go. I mean, if they can't help further the organization, you got to let them go. I got a call from Joey Birch. He was principal at North Meck, and he said the baseball coach says he's going to leave if I don't give him last period planning. I said, you need to let him go. He said, well, I could accommodate. You need to let him go. What will it be next that he's holding you
Mm-hmm.
hostage over? Next, it'll be, what classes he teaches or what kids he get. Don't go down that road. Just let him go. We'll handle the fallout. He ain't that good a baseball coach. We'll handle the fallout. Well, the parents won't like it. Well, but this is not about that. You got to let him go. Do not give him last period planning. Um, but yes, these people trying to hold you up and hold you hostage, they're not about the kids. They're about themselves. You cannot have a building full of those people. I hired a young lady. She had gone through her 4 years undergraduate and then a 2 year graduate program. So she was 24 years old when I hired her in her first job. And at Christmas, I moved her teaching AP classes in the high school. And she said, but it ain't about time, it's about talent. The fellow I got teaching, he couldn't teach on a dare. To call him a teacher is an insult to teachers everywhere. You will now be teaching AP, European history, because she could teach and he couldn't. Um, he had taught 6 cycles of AP kids and not had one to pass the exam, not even a three. Not talking about a five. He didn't have one. They grade him on threes passing. Um, he hadn't had a kid to pass, and we were paying for it as a district. That was one of those things in the book that had to be fixed. Why is it that you've got a European AP that has the highest pass rate of any of the academic AP classes district wide, and why do you have a person that's taught 6 times and has yet to have a kid to pass, and we're paying as a district for the exam? Well, I went to find out. Well, he wasn't teaching, couldn't teach. And so, it's not about your name. Your name's not on the deed; it's on the door. And when we decide who's going to teach what, where, when, we decide that in the master schedule, not you. I'm only going to teach this or that. Well, maybe you can find some place that'll let you do that. If you work here, this is what you will teach. And that's based on your performance scores. That's number 4 before teacher input. Remember the slide? Again, federal law, state law, local board policy, outcomes, EVOS or SLOs. Why would I let you teach something that you're not good at and get bad scores? At the end of the day, they post those scores on the state report card for a reason. That's what matters. Performance matters. And so we're not advocating for you to be a bad person or to be hateful to your employees, but you can't run your business for them. If you do, you won't be there long. You just won't. You won't make it in this business if you don't understand it's a performance-based business. It's a performance-based business that has rules and policies and laws, and we hired you to uphold those. Now, we're not saying that we don't want you to grow them into teachers that could teach that down the road. But for right now, we go with we go with who's, I mean, I'll use an athletics, when, you go with the hot hand, you go with the person that's scoring. You don't take out your best scorer and put somebody else in to see if they can score. No, we're going to go with the one that can score. Well, he needs some time. He needs to learn. We need to win. The outcomes matter here. We need to win. Now, yesterday I was, in a conversation about folks who stress winning too much to the point that they cheat. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about within the rules and the law of ethical behavior and legal behavior, following all the state, federal law, and local board policy. We're going to put ourselves in the best position for our kids to win. For our kids to win. We're not going to cheat. We're not going to do that. But we're going to give them the best chance to win, to learn, to perform, to be proficient, to make growth. We're going to give our kids the best chance that we can. That's our job. And if we can do that, we'll be okay. We'll do all right. You've done an excellent job tonight, Dr. Maraglia. You can do the closure tonight. I've been very pleased with them. They've done a really good job. Remember, we're meeting next week. Then we'll have the week of Thanksgiving off, and then we'll do our last class the first week in December.
Great job tonight, everyone. I really enjoy that you're engaged in part of the discussion. I always love to hear what you guys have to share. Just a reminder to get those artifacts in, and I will get feedback to you just as quickly as I can. Okay? Have
All
a
right.
great rest of your week.
Everybody have a good week. Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.